Hello everybody. So in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know to get into Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. And I will be using the official website because the official website is actually really good at like giving you what you need to know. So here, this is just the main page. If you scroll down, there's the news, where you can download it. And then here's like certain stuff like going to the side games ID, linking bonus, and the set. So here, that's like the main character: Dryzen, Portal, Love Sign, Forest, Maria, Melee, Sword, Kaori, Rune, Galan, Dragon, Abyssal, Dell, and Esperanza, Heaven. We'll go into more detail on the class later. We can click more, and this will lead to the story section. And then, like, if you go down, you just give a bit more like preview of what the card game will look like. And a lot of this will just move you to the other part of it. So here's the card battle. Here's a preview of the Shadowverse part. And then just like the other promotional thing going on, videos. And then you can where to download and everything. And then here is the news. So this is basically the news. So announcement is here. Update. There's nothing update because game like is new. Issues basically like any form of bug that happen, you can check here if there's any issue you find. And then there's event. So currently there's nothing. And then that you can go here to click here to like link in with side games ID. You'll get free 5-pack. So it's a nice thing to do. Make sure you do that. And then in the story section, we have the characters as well as your voice. Ryzen. You can go through like the characters at your own pace. And in here, there's the zoom thing. So if you click on the zoom, you'll get like the characters PNG. And then if you click this, it'll go to the other posts. You can go through this on your own. So here's the story, just the short prologue. And this is that the dry sense of what like a summary or like basically introduction to what the story is. There's not much. You probably just wait until the game actually release, and then like a more zoom up of Dryzen's gun, and then gameplay. So there's two: the card battle and Shadowverse part. So in the card battle, so they go through the basic of like what the game does. So here's some like screenshot. This is like the opening your bag. So you can collect cards from the shop and other sorts to build your deck. So most of the card will actually be from the gacha. So as you can see, you can also use vial to create card. So you see this like red bottle here. Uh, Basically, if you get more than three copy of any card, you can liquefy it. Like liquefy is basically you break them down to gain these red resources, and then you can use the red resources to like to create cards. So let's say like you pull the gacha, but you don't get like three copy of a card you want. You can just liquefy a lot the extras you get, and then you can just manually craft what you need. Uh, and then this is the battle, nothing much. And then the Shadowverse part, this is the whole like social thing they added. There's a lot of like social thing basically. Like there's the guild, there's the launch. Like honestly, it's hard to really say what you can really do here unless like the game's out, because this is a new thing. It wasn't here in the OG Shadowverse. So we can just wait until the game's out to like really see it. The lobby, and then like character customization with avatar and everything. And then there's guild. So you can actually like have voice chat and everything like with in game. It's kind of nice. but you are limited in the amount of people that can join you. And then you have your own room. This is mostly just like extra stuff you can do, just maybe for mission to get some extra gacha currency. So that's it. Okay, so here's the card section. So you can see here like the card sets. So now we only have set one, which is Legends Rise. So if you click here, it'll guide you through like the highlight of what this set is. So you can watch the trailer here. Like you can watch the trailer here. And then the exchange ticket. So for the exchange ticket, you can basically you get one exchange ticket every 250 pulls on your first one. After that, the subsequent will be 200 pull. So when you pull for your gacha, the gacha to get the cards, you accumulate points like similar to how Spark or like PT in other gacha game. And what you use with that point, like when you hit that, you can exchange it for this one of this. So each of this, there's three here, right? Each of this costs one exchange ticket. So there's the leader set, which will give you the leader, the emblem, flare, and card sleeve. And then there's the card art and home screen background. So from what I understand, if you choose this, you will get 3 copies of the alternate art automatically, which is nice. And then the third one is the visage set, which is just accessories for your part experience. Personally, I think these two is going to be like the most worth it one. This is mostly just the part thing, but you do you, because this is mostly just cosmetic. See, it doesn't really affect gameplay. It's just if you like to see the character, you will get them. So for the first set, we have Albert from Sword. We have Dimension Climb, which features Daria from Rune. So as you can see. And then we get Cerberus or Kerberos, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, from Abyss, the leader set, card style, and the visage set. And then we get Orcus from Portal. So, and then there are also like special fully animated card. So this will give you like a very special like animation card, like the, compared to like normal, they will actually be moving. The art will actually be moving on the field. So for this set, we have 3: Arya from Forest, Kwon from Rune, and Yudi from Portal. And then something. Okay, here's the thing. When I first look at this right featured card, I thought I could actually like see all of the card, but apparently not. This is only the featured card, meaning it doesn't actually have all of the cards. So if you want to see all of the cards available in that set, you actually have to go to that portal instead of here. This is only for like feature, like what they chose to highlight. Do keep that in mind. But if you want to see what the cards are highlighted, you can just click here and go left or right. That's basically it. Now this might change for future set, but for set 1, this is not all of the cards. So if you want to see all of the cards, you need to go to the deck portal. Okay, so before I go to deck portal, because that will be like a huge part of this video, I'll be going through the event. This is just like where any upcoming events like the tournament, the Discord server, you can click on them and like read out. And maybe if you like to join them or anything. So this is where you can see them. The extras thing, the extra tab is still not available right now. So once this become available, I might make a new video explaining it, but for now there's nothing. Q&A is basically something like frequently asked question. So you can try like gameplay question, preliminary question. So as you can see here, like someone asked, like, why do you not get the legendary card right from the opening a pack? That is because your daily free pack does not count toward this guaranteed thing. So if you have any question, you can try looking this up. It won't have everything, but it should have like more some of the more frequently asked stuff. All right, let's go to the big part here for the deck portal. So you can hit the deck builder card library. You can also just go there from this option. This is the way to click to set one. And then this like popular deck. So once the game's running and they have more data on like what decks actually popular, you can see them here. And then you can deck search, and using the deck portal is basic is here, but using the deck portal is like if you have issue. So it's mostly just detail certain thing, but it's not that it shouldn't be that big of an issue, I think, for the deck portal thing. So deck search, you can like search for like other deck that other people make, because anybody can make a deck, and if you make it public, anyone can see your deck. So this is the thing that's a bit annoying, is that in the card library, so let's say I choose the neutral, right? And then I click search. If I click a card, it goes into this like separate page, and you cannot like go to the next card or go to the previous card. So if you want to like this, also like you can also search for deck with this card. So this should like search in the deck search, but specifically the thing that obtain the card and everything. But for the sake of reviewing card and seeing what card is available, this this page is actually really not good if you want to like look through all of like the cards available. So ideally, you actually want to go to the deck builder. So there's no neutral, because neutral is available in every class. So just choose any. And then from here, you can actually, because this is like technically the deck builder, if you click a card, it will add that. And then if you click again, it'll just add more card. And if you click here, it add. If you click here, it go down. So you maximum a copy for a card is actually 3 for a Shadowverse. And then if you click this, it'll go the detail here. Or if you click here, you can see from this list. So you can click here to see the evolve art. And the nice thing about this is that you can go through the card really easily. Just click here to go through the card list. And then if you have more than one, by selecting on the right, it will actually navigate among the cards in your deck instead of like what's publicly here. So that's actually nice. Something else I would like to note is this button up here. It's a bit unintuitive. So when you click one, you basically choose this time I click neutral, it goes to neutral. And then let's say I click forest, it basically adds everything back. So the intuitive thing, or basically what's normal, if I click neutral again, it would basically unselect neutral and only forest cards will be shown. But if you click neutral, it actually choose back neutrals. You have to choose forest twice for it to choose only forest cards. This a bit unintuitive, but you can see there. So another nice thing here is that let's say a card has like some effect with other cards. So let's say this thing, right? Good Fairy of the Pond. It says add a fairy to your hand. All of the related card will be here, and if you click them, you can see what they do, their art and everything. It's actually really nice. Just a bit, you need to go to the deck builder to actually see it. It's fine. And then below the deck builder is you can see like you can manage your deck if you're already logged in. So for example here, I've already like create a deck, and you can copy, you can delete or edit. And if you create on your deck, you can say here you can generate a deck code or you can generate a QR code. So the point of this is that back in the OG Shadowverse, and I believe this will be transferred over to Worlds Beyond, is that when you create a new deck, you can choose to enter the code, or you can choose to scan a QR. So this makes it easy because you can just directly use your device like phone to just either just scan this QR code and it will automatically create this deck list in your game. That's actually really nice to be able to have that. And then, so now we'll go back to gameplay. Now, all this is a bit. This is also another slightly annoying thing. It's not available if you look up on the the top bar. But if you click on this, I believe, yes, if you click on this or even this one, so basically if you click on any of the more in this section, it will lead you to this page. And annoyingly, this page is not available from any shortcut. So you need to go to gameplay, go to card battle, and then click on this more. So this one it explain a bit more. Like this is just the purchase card pack. So it explained a bit on the gacha, the simulation of like how the gacha works, and then the item exchange, and then open daily free card pack. This is basically just like things that it tells you about the game. Deck creation, it explain a bit more on like how to build a deck and what you need to build a deck. And then yes, the vial thing. So as you can see, Ruler of Cocytus is a legendary. So for the rarity in Shadowverse, there's bronze, above it is silver, above that is gold, and above that is legendary. These are the types of card that you can create. You can see here. So when you liquefy, you can only liquefy if you have more than 3 copies. So it looks like for a legendary, if you liquefy a copy of it, you will gain 1,200 vials, and in order to create it, you will need 3,500 vials. So obviously, you're going to need more to for the exchange is basically like 3 to 1. For if you exchange 3 legendary, you get 3,600 vial, so you get a bit extra for this. But even if you liquefy bronze, silver, and gold, you will still get vial. So it will just be a lower amount. So the game's actually like free to play, especially with the free card pack every day. As long as you just log in every day, do your mission, you should be able to build any deck you want just from this like liquefy and create system. And then this is just an explanation on the class characteristic. Something I would like to note is that just because they're the same class doesn't mean they play the same, because even within each class, they are going to be different archetype. So the easiest example I can say is with Portal. There's like 2 archetype. There's puppet archetype and there's the artifact archetype, and you would most of the time never mix the two together. They're meant to be played separately. So now we're going to the class characteristic and what they do. So class Forest Craft. Forest Craft specializes in adding fairies and other low cost cards to your hand, helping you play multiple cards in a deck to set up for 10 combo abilities. Forest Craft focuses on keeping your hand well stocked, giving you plenty of gameplay options, and making it perfect for those who prefer a more technical playstyle. By more technical, they mean this is a combo based class. So even the keyword of this class is combo. So the point of combo is you play low cost, and then you play something else that like gain benefit from like playing a lot of cards. So you need to really think ahead. Like if you have 7 play point, how are you going to spend that then? Are you going to go for the kill? Are you going to go for like generation, fairy generation? You really need to think about like how many cards is in your hand, how many low cost cards can you generate. Another thing to keep in mind is that the class historically has a lot of like bouncing, which is putting card follower on the field back to your hand. So you can keep like recycling your on place effect, like when it gets summons effect. It is one of the more technical deck, but so you really do need to like think ahead, like what you want to do, how many play point you have, and like how far you can extend. And next we have Swordcraft. Swordcraft centers on deploying knights and other officer followers in great numbers, then strengthening them with other cards to turn the tide in your favor. Swordcraft is ideal for both beginners who wish to grasp the basic of battle and more seasoned players looking to perfect their knowledge. Swordcraft has always been more of a aggro deck. They have a lot of like low cost follower like Forest, but unlike Forest, they're not really building into a late game combo. It's more like by the time you get to your late game, you have access to like really big follower that does a lot of things. So your early game is basically just there to like build pressure, doing cheap damage, and then when you get to your later turn, you just go for the big OTK attack. So it's a more of the aggro to the mid range kind of thing. It is one of the easier deck to learn and pick up because there's not really much you need to think. Next is Runecraft. So Runecraft derives the majority of its power from spells and Earth Sigil. Spell boost abilities activate whenever spell cards are played, while amulets with the Earth Sigil trait can be consumed to perform powerful Earthright abilities. Runecraft will enchant players seeking a playstyle that stands out from the rest. The reason it stands out from the rest is because the majority of your deck is going to be spells, essentially. That's the like it's there to emulate like doing magic kind of thing. You're not doing making follower. You're playing spells. You're doing magic to just perform certain things. So spell mostly works with spell boost. So spell boost, there are two main characteristics of spell boost. One is spell boost where okay, so I'll need to first explain what spell boost is. Spell boost activate every time you play a spell, but those cards needs to be in your hand. So let's say, so every time you play a spell, if something has spell boost in your hand, it usually have one of two effects. It will either reduce its cost by 1 every time you play a spell, or it will gain a number every time you play a spell. So let's say it says like deal X damage to an enemy follower, X equal to their spell boost. So if you play 3 spells, you will then deal 3 damage to the followers that you chose. And then for Earth Sigil is basically amulets. So it's a bit more similar to Havencraft, but instead of being a permanent, not instead of being like a permanent there that just count down, it is instead something that it's a stack. It increase your stack and then you decrease the stack. Think of it as a resource basically. You increase your stack and then your effect will then use those stack. So something I will go over this a bit later when we get to keyword. But in Shadowverse, a lot of you, the effect is basically mandatory. So if something say Earthright 2 and you have Earthright 2, you will actually reduce your stack from 2 to 0 and then you will destroy your Earthright. And that's something to keep in mind because as long as your Earthright is on the field, you can keep increasing the stack. But the moment it goes to 0, it will disappear from the field. So any card that's like increase your Earth Sigil by one no longer works. So like so yes, Runecraft, you might think I'm making it sounds a bit complicated, but that's more so on like the Earth Sigil. So Earth Sigil can get a bit complicated because it's a resource management archetype, but spell boost is not complicated at all. It's just play as many spells as you can. Spell boost is, I would say, even easier than Swordcraft, depending on, of course, you need to know like the deck and how it plays and everything. So in that sense, spell boost is a bit harder than Swordcraft because you need to know what you're building towards, because you need to keep track of what you're spell boosting. But it's pretty easy. It's not that hard. So next is Dragoncraft. So Dragoncraft excels at using cards to increase your max play point, allowing you to play high cost follower earlier in the game while charging up Overflow. Once you have 7 or more max play points, Overflow becomes active, opening the floodgate for the heavy hitter. Dragoncraft, with its many high attack and high defense followers, is an excellent choice for players who want to make a huge impression on the battlefield. So in Shadowverse, your play point will you start both players start at 0 play point, and then every single turn, like when it gets to your turn, you increase your maximum play point by one and you recover all of your play point. So your turn one, you gain 1 play point, and then you play a card one cost, so you go down to 0. But then next turn you gain one more maximum play point, you go to 2 maximum, and you also recover your maximum playable play point. So now you can play 2 cards. What Dragoncraft do is basically they have cards that increase your maximum play point, but it doesn't recover your play point. So for example, Dragon Sign, let's say a card says increase your maximum play point by 1 and it costs 3 cards. You go to 0 play point available, and then you go to 4 maximum play point. So then next turn you go to 5 and you can play 5 play points. Overflow activates when you're at 7 play points or higher. Dragon is historically one of the easier decks to learn because it's all just about increasing your max play point, which a lot of the players call as ramping. So it is actually one of the easier decks to learn. And as we have Abysscraft, Abysscraft draws its power from your cemetery and your own leader's defense, paving the way for accelerating and versatile strategies. Use shadows from your cemetery to perform necromancy abilities, while reanimating fallen allies as departed follower. Then send those horde to drag your foes to the grave. So Abysscraft is a match made in the underworld for players who delight in setting up devilishly tricky plays and pitfalls. So Abysscraft is a combination of 2 classes from the original Shadowverse, the Shadowcraft and the Bloodcraft. But from the description here, it seems like inside one at least, is going to lead more into the Shadowcraft aspects of it. So Shadows is basically okay, so think about the amount of cards in your graveyard, but not quite. So every time you play a spell or a follower gets destroyed, you increase your shadows by 1. But there are also cards that will automatically increase your shadows. So think of shadows as a counter, similar to Earthright, a sigil. So it's basically a counter that will increase as you play the game more and more. However, while Destroyed follower increase your shadow counter, Banished follower does not increase your shadow counter. That is a different distinction that is needed to make. And then what you do with your shadow is you perform necromancy. Necromancy is basically a fright to a sigil. It basically reduces your shadow. So necromancy 2 will reduce your shadows by 2 to activate the effect. A lot of shadow, like a lot of shadows like aesthetic and gimmick is basically they just reanimate, which means to like summoning again followers from your graveyard or like your destroyed followers. That's basically what Abysscraft does. For now at least. Like maybe later we'll get something that leans more towards Bloodcraft. But for now, it's basically the Shadowcraft. Next we have Havencraft. So Heavencraft boasts many cards that banish enemy followers or restore your leader's defense. Make the most of your amulets. Countdown amulet have a delayed effect in exchange for big rewards, while amulets with engaged abilities can shake up the state of play at a moment's notice. Heavencraft is perfect for players who wish to control both the tempo of the play and the battlefield itself. That is true. Heavencraft is usually a more controlling class. So you want to recover your play point, you want to like stall the game state, and then you basically either win from just resource alone, or you have like big follower when it's like the late game. So the main gimmick of Heavencraft is amulets. So amulet is something that takes up space in your field, but it is not a follower. It is so, and there are two types of amulet: one that doesn't have countdown and one that have countdown. So amulets with countdown is basically exactly what you said. It's a ticking timer for when it activates effect, and the countdown goes by one every turn. So let's say you play an amulet with countdown 3, and then in 3 turns, that amulet will be destroyed, and this amulet will have a last word. So when amulets are destroyed, they activate their effects. Engage is something they carry forward, they carry over from Shadowverse Evolve. It basically means to activate the effect of your amulets. Some have cost, some doesn't have cost. So this is nice because when you engage an amulet, you can, depending on the effect, you can either accelerate the countdown or do something else. We will see later, but that's basically the point of this. That is just you try to stall the game in the early state, and then you will win by a resource in the late game. And then we get to Poltercraft. This is my main deck. So Poltercraft is adept at using tokens and copying cards to bulk up its arsenal. Use combinations of cards to create the best possible situation. Play zero-cost puppets in conjunction with other cards, or copy artifacts in various ways and turn them on your foes. Portalcraft is tailored to players who enjoy considering the interactions between cards to consider the optimal play. So Portalcraft is similar to Forestcraft in that it's not a beginner friendly class to learn. You're going to take some time to learn how to play this deck, this class in general, because of the two archetype that exist, puppet and artifact, both of them requires you to like really think when calling on doing certain thing is like worth the effort, because both that is basically just like token and card generation. It's not something, of course, like this is mostly just me talking based on like OG Shadowverse, but you're going to take a bit more time to learn how to like best optimize Portocraft. Like you don't need to think to play it, but it it gets better. Like in that sense, this is better than Forest, because Forest, if you don't think about what you're doing, you're basically breaking. But for Portocraft, even if you don't really think what you're doing, you can still do certain things. But thinking and planning ahead will let you get like so much more out of your cards. And then there's neutral. So unlike other cards, neutral cards can be used in any deck. As a result, neutral cards tend to have easy to use abilities that don't rely on synergy with other classes. Neutral cards may be used in a multitude of ways depending on what class they're paired with. Experiment with combinations and experience their depth for yourself. The nice thing about neutral is basically they can be used in any class. And because of that, their ability are pretty generic most of the time. Like choose something, destroy that follower, play this to draw a card. They're pretty generic, but because they're generic, they're actually pretty good. You can, but usually they're not your win con. Neutral is basically something you use to fill up your deck if you don't have anything better, or if you need that resource. They're basically the bridge between your end game and your early game. So there's something to help the other deck in that sense. And there are the three card types: follower, spell, and amulet. So follower is a follower. It stays on the board. It has body. It basically have attack, defense. Spells, you play them and they do effect depending on the effect, but it doesn't go to the board. Amulet feels takes up space on the board. So this is important because you can only have up to 5 cards on your field. So if you have all like 5 amulet on the field, you might not be able to like respond to your opponent. So you need to like know how much amulet can you like put down before you start taking too much damage and not be able to fight back. This is because you follower, when you summon that follower, it cannot attack on the turn that it is summoned. But unless it has the specific keyword that allows it to do it. So if you feel too many amulet on your board, you might not be able to respond back to your opponent. And then the explanation of the card. This is the cost, the green. The bottom left is the attack, bottom right is the defense. And then this is like the ability, as you can see. So class, trait, ability. Okay, so trait. Trait is basically like something regarding the card that certain effect looks at. This is, you need to know more about the card themselves to really understand why trait is necessary. But for now, just know that it exists and it interacts with card's ability. So next is the battle. So you play with a 40 card deck and you win by reducing your opponent health to 0. And then the battle screen breakdown. So I'll just break it down for you. So like we'll go from the top. We'll go from like the number. So 1 is basically your leader. You can click on your leader and there's going to be a set of like emotion or like emote that you can choose, and it's basically how you interact in the game. So 2 is your evolve point and super evolve point. The yellow one is the normal evolve point. The right is your super evolve point. So the thing about evolve and super evolve is that if you evolve a follower, you cannot super evolve that follower. And it's vice versa. If you super evolve a follower, you cannot evolve that follower. It's a one or the other type of deal. So you will have 2 of each. So depending on when, so that the player going second will get to evolve and super evolve a turn before the player going first. And then 3, here is your life point, your HP basically. And then 4, this is basically your end turn. Like if you're done everything you could do, you should press this end turn. And then if you notice, there's this ring around the end turn. That's the timer of how many times, of how long you actually have to complete this turn. 5 is your usable play point. So 10 out of 10. So the left 10 here means how much that you can use for this turn. And then on the right here is the maximum amount of play point that you have. And then here number 6 is +1 play point. This is valid for the player going second. So the player going seconds get this twice. So +1 play point, bonus play point. So from my understanding of like +1 play point is it increase both your maximum play point and playable play point. So for example, if you're turn 2, you can use this, gain 1, and you can play a 3 cost card on turn 2. So, and you get 1, this like, you can use this once from your turn 1 to turn 5, and another one time from your turn 6 to turn 10. So this is only available to play going seconds. Do keep that in mind. 7. This is your hand. If you click on them, they will expand to here so that you can read up on more of like the cards available. 8. This is like your follower or your amulets that are on your field. You can click on them and you can see like what are their effects. 9. This is your crest or your leader effect essentially. You can only have one type of leader effect. So if let's say that you see this guy, you have this. As long as this is up, you cannot apply another leader effect with this ability, with this same card. And you can only have a maximum of 5 leader effect. And then 10, this is going to be your lock, if I remember correctly. Yes, this is going to be your battle lock. Battle lock is basically like what card you and your opponent has played. So you can like check the battle lock, what attack what destroy what played what, that kind of thing. 11 is basically where you can get a lot of extra stuff. This is the menu button. So you access the game setting and you can like the forfeit dimension and everything. So if I'm correct, when you click the log, you should be able to see more info on your like destroyed follower and ability and count and everything. But I will look forward into what happens like tomorrow when the game's actually out. Flow of battle. So you start with a 40 card deck, and then whoever goes first or second is just random. So first, both player will draw 4 cards in their opening hand, and then you can put any card you don't want for mulligan, which is just putting it back to deck and redrawing a new hand. And then starting your turn and attacking. So follower that you'll summon cannot normally attack. And next turn, they can attack anything, your opponent's follower or your opponent's leader. You can either click and drag the evolve and super evolve point to the follower, or you can just click them and then choose evolve or super evolve, whichever is more convenient for you. And so basically now what they added is like you can see your opponent's deck like at the end of your match, so you can see what your opponent was trying to cook up with their deck. And then there's also the playing solo for the practice game, story, and the battle tutorial. I am not certain if the AI tip is currently functional. Like from the live stream, it looks to be crashing quite a bit. So give it a try, but don't be surprised if it crashes your game. It is there. It's only been like less than 2 weeks, so it should not. It might still be there. And then there are 2 types of game. This is the open match and the private match. Open match is like just a public match. Private is basically you create a room to play with your friend. Alright, so now we'll go to like the long part of this video. I will be going through all of the keywords here and explaining them. Alright, so I'll go through this left to right and then top to bottom. Follower. Follower is your one of the 3 type of card. So when you play a follower, it enters your field. And your follower has an attack and a defense stat. A spell is basically something you play from your hand, but then it just doesn't go to the field or anything. It just automatically get destroyed. Amulet is a type of card. It will occupy your field, but they do not have attack and do not have defense. They only have effects. So do keep that in mind. Crest. Crest is basically your leader effect. It gives the thing about leader effect is that even if the follower that give the leader effect get destroyed, the leader effect stays. And then token are things that are generated from your other cards. So for example, puppet, right? There's going to be a card and then it generates puppet token. A way to think about token is basically cards that are not in your main deck, but you can get them from the cards that are in your main deck. Class. Class is basically just what you can play in a deck. So a deck can only play the same class and neutral cards. Another thing to keep in mind is that leaders is also limited to their class. So for example, Dryzen is a portal leader, so you cannot play Dryzen in any other class. So trait is basically like something that a card have. It's kind of like think of it as a tag of some sort. So for example, puppet, they have the puppetry trait. So usually cards that have traits usually have some sort of interaction in their card effects. So do look out for that. Like I will be going over all of the card in set one, so you can watch that video. So next is the cost. Cost is how many play point you need to play a card. Attack is the amount of damage a follower deal to either the opponent's follower or the opponent's leader. Defense is the amount of HP a follower have. So something to keep in mind is that if say a follower have 5 defense and then a follower attack it with 3 attack, your follower's defense will go down to 2 and it will stay there. It will only get destroyed when it goes to 0 and below. Match is just a game, like a battle. Leader is basically just your cosmetic, like who's emote, who's going to emote, who's going to make a voice, who's going like the animation and such. Deck, you have a 40 card deck of which you can play 3 copy of a single type of cards. Field is the area where follower and amulet are put. You can have up to a maximum of 5. Hand is in your hand, the cards in your hand, and you can only have up to 9 cards at a time. So if you have 9 and you draw or like you bounce anything, they will automatically get destroyed. Symmetry is basically your graveyard, your drop zone. It's basically the place where your destroyed followers are, and it also keep track of your shadow. But your shadow will be more than your symmetry actually. So why is this important? Because when you use up shadow, you do not remove the symmetry cards. You only use up the shadow counter itself. So the follower that has been destroyed and in your symmetry stays in your symmetry. This is important for Abyss and their reanimate stuff. And then leader area. This is basically the place where the crests are placed. The place where the crests are displayed actually. So you can have up to 5 crests. Play point. There's the maximum play point and then there's the playable play point. Maximum play point is how many play points you have in total, but playable play point is how many play points you can use this turn. So you have a hard limit of 10, but if you go second, that can go to 11. And then EP, evolution point. So you use this to evolve your follower, and then super evolution point. You use this to super evolve your follower. Play is basically to play it from hand. So let's say you like reanimate a card, you do not play the reanimated card. You are only summoning that reanimated card to your field. That is different. And then the turn is basically going first, going second, and then turn one, turn two, turn three, like how many turns have passed. It's not that important. And attack is basically you declaring an action, a follower attacking another follower or a follower attacking a leader. Redraw is your mulligan. You decide how many cards you want to put back and redraw. Bonus play point is for going second. So you get +1 maximum play point for that turn and +1 playable play point for that turn. Evolution. So evolution and super evolution give a static plus attack plus defense to your follower. This applies to every follower in the game. So if you evolve a follower, they gain a +2/+2. And because they evolve, they basically get rush, which is the ability to attack your opponent's follower. However, do keep in mind, there are evolve ability and super evolve ability. So evolve and super evolve ability will only trigger if you use a play point to evolve them. So let's say like you evolve them from another card's effect, they do not gain that ability. Unless I'm wrong and that only applies to super evolution and not evolution. In which case, I'm sorry, someone please correct me in the comment section below. Super evolution give it a +3/+3 and a bunch of extra stat. So for one, it can rush, meaning it can attack the opponent's follower. During your turn, it cannot be destroyed by ability and damage it takes is reduced to 0. So if you use your super evolved follower to attack an opponent's follower, that means that you will only be dealing damage to that opponent's follower and will not be taking any damage. This is nice because let's say you have a 5/5 super evolved follower swinging to a 6/2 opponent follower. Your opponent follower will be destroyed, but yours will not even get damaged because of this effect. And then, whenever this follower attacks and destroy an enemy follower, either with the attack itself or an ability, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. So you attack something, let's say you attack 5/5 to 6/2, it destroyed, it will deal 1 damage to your opponent's leader. Or what this ability means is, let's say you have an ability that says, at the end of the battle, at the end of this follower attack another follower, deal that follower 1 damage. That will also trigger this 1 damage to the enemy leader. And then this is just another form of like tag, like trait, like super evolved follower is also considered evolved follower, but they do not trigger your evolve ability. So as for the turn that these two are available, if you go first, you can evolve from turn 5 and super evolve from turn 7. If you're going second, you can evolve from turn 4 and super evolve from turn 6. And you can only choose one or the other per turn. So if you already evolve a card and you have and super evolution point, you cannot super evolution that turn. You can only choose one or the other. Next is combo. This is primarily a forest craft keyword. So combo is the number of cards you've played this turn. So that end, when you play a card with combo, it counts itself as combo. So let's say I have a card that is like combo 3. If you play 2 cards before it, and it is the 3rd card you play, it will work because playing that card itself counts towards your combo. And then spell boost. Spell boost activate if you play a spell and the card is in your hand. Do note that some effect will also just say spell boost cards in your hand by like 1 or 2, even if you don't play a spell. So it's not just gain from playing spells, it also can be increased by effect. Earthright is using an Earth Sigil counter. So you need to play that ability. So something about Earthright as well as Enhance later on, but I'll just explain it now. Shadowverse effects is basically mandatory. So Earthright, so let's say Earthright 2, if you can activate Earthright 2, you cannot choose to not activate that ability. It will automatically consume two Earth Sigil to activate that ability. It's a very do as much as you can kind of situation. You do not get to choose. So do like see how much resource you have and know like which card to play first. Like your play order matters. Earth Sigil is an amulet with a counter, and right, and then every time you play another Earth Sigil or you increase the counter goes up. It cannot be destroyed by ability or selected for enemy ability. This is to prevent your opponent from just hard countering your gimmick, but uh, they will automatically destroy if you let them go to zero. So and like I said earlier, an ability that says gain X a sigil will, will X if there isn't one, an allied magic set element. Ah, I see. So they actually changed it for Worlds Beyond. Okay, that was my bad. So if you say if you gain an ability that say gain two Earth Sigil and you already have Earth Sigil with one, you will now increase that to three. But this is new to Worlds Evolved. If you don't have any Earth Sigil, you will summon a magic sediment, which is basically an Earth Sigil, and it will go up by two. So this is actually a huge quality of life change compared to OG Shadowverse. Because in OG Shadowverse, if you don't have a magic sediment on field, you're just wasting your gain Earth Sigil ability. However, I will note that if your field is full, if you already have 5 followers and you play anything like this, you cannot create any more Earth Sigil. It doesn't override previous follower. You need to open up the space for it. Overflow is the dragon keyword. It's basically if you have 7 or more maximum play point. Necromancy is use up your shadows counter. It's basically Earthright, but using shadow instead. Reanimate. So reanimate summons a copy of allied follower with the highest cost, with highest base cost destroyed that match and give it departed trait. The cost of yeah, the break in the bracket. So let's say it says reanimate bracket 4. It will choose the highest cost follower, maximum of 4 from your destroyed follower, and summon them. So if you don't have 4, you only have 3, it will summon 3. If there's 2 same cost, like you have 4 in your drop, and you reanimate 4, it will be random. So the reason it says a copy of the allied destroyed follower is because it doesn't summon that destroyed follower itself. So again, this just means that you can keep reanimating that same card over and over again. Storm means that the moment you play that follower, it can attack the opponent's follower and it can also attack your opponent's leader. It's basically an upgrade to Rush. And next is Rush. Rush is basically you can attack opponent's follower the turn they enter the field. Ward. So basically, if you have a follower with Ward on the field, your opponent have to destroy that Ward follower before they can attack anything else. If a follower with Ward also have, and this is also possible because if a follower with Ward also has ambush or intimidate takes priority and negates Ward. As for what, ambush and intimidate. Ambush is here. Follower with ambush cannot be selected by any ability or attack into. It straight up cannot be selected. Period. Uh, it's lost when you deal damage with ability or it attacks. And then as for intimidate, it should be down here. Where is it? Where is intimidate? Wait, wait, why is... Alright, here, intimidate. Follower with intimidate can't be attacked by enemy follower. So ambush, they cannot be chosen and cannot be attacked. Intimidate, they cannot be attacked by enemy follower, but they can be chosen by card effects. So that's the difference there. So basically, if a ward have ambush or intimidate, you negate the need to attack this thing first. Because if you don't, you basically just like auto win. Because your opponent cannot attack anything but ward. But your ward cannot be attacked. So it's basically just a balancing thing. Bane. So follower with Bane destroy anything they attack or get attacked with, anything they interact with. You attack an enemy follower, your enemy follower automatically get destroyed. An enemy follower attacks your Bane follower, enemy follower automatically get destroyed. It doesn't matter like your attack defense, it just automatically destroy. Drain. So when follower with Drain attack, they restore defense to leader equal to the attack damage dealt. This is important because let's say you have a 3-3 drain, but you attack into something that has barrier. So because you deal 0 damage, you heal 0 because that's the based on the amount of damage you dealt. And this only works when you attack something. It doesn't work when your follower get attacked by your opponent's follower. And then countdown. Countdown is basically how many turns before that thing get destroyed. Aura. Aura is follower with this cannot be selected by enemy ability, but can be targeted by enemy ability that affect random target. So you cannot choose it by ability, but you can attack into it. Something I would like to note with all of this like cannot be selected thing is that any AoE effect or random effect will also deal this thing. So let's say a card say deal 3 damage to all enemy follower. Aura does nothing. Ambush does nothing. Because it's AoE. It doesn't care. It doesn't target. And then as for random, random is also you don't choose it, but if it happen to land on this thing is by chance, like the system choose it, so that's fine. So something to keep in mind. Evolve. Ability that activate when the card is evolved or super evolved using evolution point. Okay, so yeah. Evolve ability or super evolve ability only triggers when you spend the point to evolve them. So when you cheat evolve point out, you don't get this. But if there is an effect that says this follower can evolve for 0 evolution point or 0 super evolution point, then this evolve and super evolve ability will actually trigger. Because you are using evolution point, you are just using 0 evolution point. There's a difference between evolving by effect and evolving by using 0 evolution points. So I don't think there's any card that do that for now, but I'm sure they'll add it back eventually. Strike. So ability that activate when follower attack both the leader and the enemy follower, and it activates before damage. This is different from follower strike. Oh, they don't have follower strike. Okay, I'll just explain it. So like back in OG Shadowverse, there's followers, right? So followers, right, only activate if you attack into a follower, but it doesn't seem like that gets carried over to Worlds Beyond. So this is actually a bit easier now because if you see strike, you know, like you attack, it works. Again, just like with Drain, this only work when you have the initiative to attack. If your opponent attack into your follower, this doesn't work. Clash, however, works both ways. So Clash activate when your follower attack your opponent's follower or your opponent's follower attack your follower. However, it doesn't activate when your follower attack your opponent's leader. So that's the difference between Strike and Clash. Strike is your initiative. Clash is an engagement with opponent's follower. Doesn't matter which initiative, whose initiative. Enhance. Uh, so when you play a card that says Enhance 7, it will that enhance ability will activate if you have 7 playable play point. So let's say they have a 4 cost card, but you have enhance 7 and you have 7 cost, you will automatically use that enhance 7 ability. Again, Shadowverse ability is basically do as much as you can do. So you do not get to choose. So let's say you want to play a card, but you do not want to use its enhance effect. You need to play it after lowering down your playable play point. Mode. This is a new keyword, which is basically just saying, okay, this card has several effects. You get to choose one of them. So that is mode. Of course, you need to like fulfill their conditions, but I don't think like any of the set one card have any form of condition, but it's something to keep in mind for future use. Fuse. So if a card has fuse ability, you can fuse cards in your hand with it. So the fuse card needs to be something specified. Uh, you, I, you need to look at artifact because as of set one, fuse is the artifact is the only card that have the fuse ability, and I will explain in more detail in the card review in the artifact section because you kind of need to like see the card themselves to understand fusion. So the other thing is that you can only fuse once per turn, but any number of cards can be fused at the same time unless stated otherwise. You can only fuse once per turn. This is actually wrong, I believe. Watch this because if I remember correctly, they didn't fuse once per turn in the live stream. So I think what this should be is you can only fuse one card once per turn. So let's say you fuse a card, you cannot fuse that card again that turn. But you, if there's another card that has the fuse ability, you can use that ability that turn. I think this is a translation error because even in the live stream, they showed that artifact can fuse multiple times in one turn. So another thing to note is that fuse cards are removed from hand and do not go to your symmetry, so they don't increase your shadow counter. So as for like the detail on fuse, you go watch my other video on the card review in the artifact section, the portal craft artifact section. Engage. So engage, you can activate this ability of amulet once per turn. So this is same case like one card can be you can use engage once per turn. But if you have two cards with engage, you can engage both of them as long as you can fulfill the condition. So give X Y. X Y is basically X is attack, Y is defense. So something to keep in mind is like some people, a lot of player will use something like 3 cost 4/5, something like that kind of terminology. 3 cost means like you need 3 play point to play it. 4/5 is like 4 attack, 5 defense. Damage. This is just like the amount of damage or like how many defense your leader or follower has taken. Restore. You regain your defense, but only up to your maximum. So for example, your leader cannot go past 20 defense. And with the follower, it depends on like what's their normal like undamaged defense maximum is. Draw is basically just adding a card from deck to hand. So draw will be just random top card of your deck. But if it specifies draw follower or draw spell, it will draw the top follower or spell from your deck, but not necessarily like the top card of your deck. This can only happen because this is a digital card game. So yeah, and then add to hand is basically you adding card back to your hand. Again, you can only go up to 9 card in hand. So if you go beyond that, equal to symmetry. Summon will create card from your field or move it from hand or deck. There are some cards that summon follower from that, but again, you can only go up to 5 in your field. If your field is full, however, nothing happens. So unlike adding to hand, where any card you overdraw will just get destroyed and go to cemetery, summon ability, if your field is already full, will just not activate. Destroy is basically just choosing something and destroy it, like send it to cemetery, no question asked. Banish is remove that thing from where it is, but it does not trigger last word, it does not go to cemetery, it does not activate last word. Last word, cemetery, and it does not contribute to your damage follower. So if say in the future there will be something that looks at amount of cards in your cemetery or something, banish basically is a hard counter to that kind of playstyle. Leave the field. So unlike last word, which wait, do they not have last word? Oh yeah, they do have last word. Did I skip this? I think I might have skipped this. Okay, let's just go back to fanfare. So fanfare activate when you play a follower from hand to field. This doesn't work when it gets summoned from deck to field, when it gets summoned from like cemetery to field. You need to play it from hand. And then last word is an ability that activate when a card is destroyed. If it gets banished or it transforms into another thing, last word doesn't proc, doesn't trigger essentially. Alright, so going back to leave on the field, if unlike last word, if something is banished, destroyed, or moved to another area, meaning from field to hand or field to deck, it is considered to leave the field. But transformation does not count as leaving the field. Split damage. It's split damage. Okay, so let's read this because this should be different. So damage split between enemies is dealt in order of from oldest enemy follower on the field to newest, right to left, with each follower taking up to its damage before. Okay, so this is actually different from OG Shadowverse. So how it works now is, let's say you deal 10 split damage. So the oldest opponent follower will take, let's say they have 3 defense. So you go down, you deal 3 damage to it. So now your split damage has 7 remaining damage. So now you deal any damage subsequently, like in order. You destroy one follower, and then the extra damage will go to the next follower. And if there's like no follower, any remaining will go to the leader. So select is basically choosing. And then spells that require target selection can only be played if you can select the specified number of target. So this is important because some spell says choose 2 enemy follower, but if your opponent only have 1 follower, you cannot activate the ability. But follower and amulet with selects ability doesn't need to fulfill this condition. You just target as much as possible. This extra exception only for spells. Exact copy. An exact copy is basically everything that card has, but not the state. Basically, had attack, because if it had attack, it cannot attack anymore, or had been engaged. Engaged is basically the amulet. So you summon everything as a fresh copy. Essentially, you can do everything you did. So return to that. So returning a card to deck, move it from field or hand to your deck. And this is a new change. Anything you return to your deck from hand, retain effects applied. So if you increase the attack or defense from your hand, it goes to that. It stays boosted. If a card's cost gets reduced, you go back to that. That also stays, which is really good. This is really good. Some player might have concern with spell boost because if you this is just it just make them like you not have to spell boost stuff anymore. But I think this is just a nice change. You once a card has been done, you don't have to worry about it. This is also something that can only be done because Shadowverse is a digital card game. Return to hand. Isn't there already return to hand? Okay, so this is leave the field. So return to hand specifically returns it to hand. So any damage or effect does not carry over. So this is important. You basically get a fresh copy of that card back to your hand. Discard is just you discard a card to a cemetery. Transform is just you change that card to another different card. So damage, effect, and whatever else happened to the original card does not carry over. However, if you transform a follower, it is considered as summoning a new follower, so it cannot attack that turn. And that is all for the keywords, at least for set 1. So I hope you find this entertaining and useful. Hopefully you guys enjoy the game coming out tomorrow. And if you like, go watch my video where I review every single card in set 1. Thanks for watching.